Smalltalk is notorious for not working on the command line. There are really a few Smalltalks that properly work from the command line. That is the curse of having a UI in the 70s or 80s. Before the first thing I'll start is the whole background information. So I remember a year ago we got this thing called Jenkins at Arnold. The Ingram offered us this service and we were glad to accept it. At first this seems like a very nice thing. However, so there was one issue with it. When we set up Jenkins, the jobs were all depending on themselves. So in Jenkins, I don't know if you know it, but usually you have one job, especially in Pharo, you have one job that generates the image, and then you have another one that takes this basic image and does something with it, installs software and everything. A couple of people did that before. That was mainly depending on some strange bash scripts. I don't understand bash, so I always issues understanding bash. And the second issue we had is that these jobs depend on themselves a lot, and they depend in the way that this whole thing actually becomes super heavy, and literally meaning heavy. It's almost impossible to move one job from one Jenkins to another, because it wasn't simply a script you could copy or just copying it over by itself. Jenkins has a plugin which almost never works. That means the whole thing is heavy. So if you say heavy, it's fine if the ground is flat, but usually it looks more like this. If you're down there on the left, the job does not work. We're at the edge. This is not where we want to be. So with a lot of effort, we can get that thing up there. And what's supporting that is our server infrastructure. Well, there's also people, but we don't care about the people because they work usually. So in our case, we had this nice server infrastructure, which literally blew up almost every weekend. And that means we had more downtime than uptime. And if you saw that before, this Jenkins job was depending on itself, so there was no way to get the thing access the artifacts from outside to use that system. And this drove us almost mad. And, well, a couple of people went actually mad. I count myself into that, but I was not alone. So if you look at it, what I wanted is to have a very lightweight Jenkins that doesn't do much, that has only very little using this custom Jenkins stuff, but actually depends on some standard infrastructure. And in our case, what we do is, let's say we have Pharo. That is our main artifact. As you see, I embedded it in the ground. This is really something we cannot remove because that's our project. The other thing I really added it by myself was to use the proper file server. And that means whenever the Jenkins thing is done, we still have our files accessible. It's a very simple thing. But actually these two big arrows up there, this is what we're going to focus on. They have some implications, and this is what we're going to use now. What we need is I need a zero configuration script. That means I can download and run Jenkins with a one-liner from the shell, from the command line. And I actually need tools to interact with the image. And this is where we started with the Pharo, a decent Pharo command line interface. Just for the record, I think before Pharo 1.0, the only thing to interact with the image was by passing in a ST file. I will show that later. Basically, the whole infrastructure evolved around that you would store somewhere an ST file, notably somewhere separate from the whole server infrastructure, and run it, which is quite a mess, actually. So now, the basics of the command line stuff. This is how you install Pharo on your system. And I think on OS X, if you don't have WGF installed, you should try the second line. So everybody who's here now trying to join the tutorial, make sure you sit next to somebody who has a machine. Or, yeah, if you want, pair programming, that's a bit easier. Try to run that for now. parse that thing properly display. So you have the whole description there, what you should do. Also, Steph wrote, or made me write, a nice chapter, Pharo by example book, which talks about this thing.
Can you put up the thing again?
Yes. There you go. All dash.
After minus all.
Yes, that is output it to standard out. Otherwise, wget puts in a file. Yes, if you don't have wget, install it. It's a nice program. But you can use curl. That's why I put the second line.
Do you have curl? Curl doesn't work for me.
No?
What it does, it concatenates in place that I don't have.
wget.
Then you don't have
wget.
Then you have to do this curl.
If you launch curl, it contains that wget is not coming.
Yes.
That is strange. So you have set up some alias in your terminal. I don't know.
He has the same. Of course.
Same origins.
Just install wget.
Yeah, I think that's easy.
It says double. Do you maybe use inside the double?
No.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it
Download
does.
subscripts. We get minus all.
Okay, that's strange. In the case, check the homebrew website and.
Do you get it?
Huh? Yes, I am. Get it.
Okay, so we have to prove that. Sudo bot install, no?
Yes.
Sudo bot, ja, finish well.
No.
So my question is, how does it how does it go to download the Mac VM?
I can quickly show that. So, can you guys who don't have wget installed go on the homebrew website and install homebrew? I think it's even the first example on top. Macport sucks. Some old people. No. I don't know how you install it. Just try.
Yes. Well, Massport's taking a while to install.
Yes.
Okay, so then it's close.
So, just before I explain the script, with
1, 2, 24.
maybe.
So,
Who's installing wget?
Installing wget.
So there are 4 people, 5 people. Is it working? Okay, so can I continue? Okay, just before I answer Dora's question, the thing will go like this, actually. If you download this script, get.pharo.org, this is the website I showed you. You download the default stable version, that's right now, 2.0 with the Pharo VM. If you want to be more specific, if you need one specific version, and in the future different VM versions, the URL will look like this. So you can choose between one of the Pharo versions plus the VM. If you only need the image, you just type the Pharo version.
Can I get the latest VM?
Of course. So if I do this here, 2.0, I get the 0 script that downloads the 2.0 image. If I do field 0, I get the image for field 0, and for those which I think it's VM latest.
So we have to put that in the chapter.
I have to regenerate the scripts, but okay. Now for the question. If you look at the page source, here is this nice thing that does, that's already unreadable, which checks on which platform you are and then downloads the VM. That's where you go. This is all a bit a mess, so I'd rather not touch these files. I currently generate them from within Pharo because I'm very lazy and I honestly don't know how to program Bash, so I always Google these things for half an hour and then I copy paste them somewhere, so I have never ever to remember them.
Yes. Does this work on Windows as well?
Yes, there's Windows here, and if you run on a MinWB, there's this thing. So we use that script currently on our build server under Linux, Mac, Windows. That's the requirement. Okay. Now, if you did launch that script, you will have in your working directory a file called Pharo, which is a small practice script for the VM and the Pharo image. I can quickly show that. So, I run already the script in my directory. We have the Pharo VM, Pharo. If I want to launch the image, I can do this just to show that it works. So you can try that. I launch the VM this here, give it an image, and see what the hell provides me. Is that working?
Yes.
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 Yes, for whom does it not work?
Yes, I can get a vget.
You're still installing wget?
No, I get vget, but the script fails for some reason.
What is the error message?
The -o argument doesn't seems to confuse it. It says no URL provided.
-o.
-o dash.
Oh, you have to have another dash after you have minus.
-o minus.
Oh,
Okay? Okay. So,
Wait. For which is working?
yes, everybody working, who not? Still, you get it. Okay. Okay.
So I can help in the meantime.
Okay, Dory has to join you.
If somebody needs help, I can help.
No, but yes, you should give the exercise. Since we have somebody
Yeah, but this who needs it? Who needs help?
Okay. So I continue my program. From now on, I prepared the slides, but I think I won't use them because it's much more fun on the command line.
By the way, where will you put the slides? I will put mine on the Dropbox and send you the name of the script scan.
So,
Galileo, I want your slide.
yes, I will send them to you, no problem. There are two scripts. It is not very readable in my terminal. There's Pharo and Pharo UI. So if you don't need the UI, you just run the Pharo. Here, this is what I did in my previous thing here, Pharo. Is it big enough? I can make it big.
So this is headless and
Yeah. guess, is eval. That is something very silly, so you can actually evaluate small-talk expressions from the command line. Impressive. And it prints the result to the command line. And also if you do stupid things, like this here, you get a more or less decent output, so it prints a big stack trace. And what is important, you see that in my terminal, more or less. I always get this nice hand and the number that says that the command I ran in the shell actually had an exit status non-zero. And why is that important? Before, Pharo did not exit. No matter what happened in the script you would run, it would always signal a successful exit. That means whenever you run from the command line, you would not know whether actually your script failed or not. Additionally, there was no stack trace or error message. What happened was a Pharo.log file was created. And all the bash script that ran there, they pinged if there was a Pharo.log file. And if that file existed, the bash script would exit. Which is complete madness because you can easily... Yes. You can just use the primitive that is there at exit. So that guarantees that Pharo works more or less nicely. So if I do things like, okay, I don't want to care about the... No, that isn't standard out then. Anyway, what you can do is these things here. So, proper bash integration. If the first one fails, run the second command. So, I get the foo. If the first one does not fail, I do not get the foo. So, that is just normal bash integration. I don't know if everybody knows this two pipes. That is just for that. You just execute the second command if the first one failed. Very simple. And also what I did not show for the eval, there's of course the help. You can type the subcommand --help and you basically get the whole description what that thing does. With plenty of examples. Let me quickly see my slides that I have.
Do you need to put in quotes the expression or?
Yes.
Because in your example, you don't put quotes.
I think that works as well. But of course, as soon as you have a character in there that is understood by bash or expanded, so this here is most probably not going to work. Okay, yeah. Pass the test. Because the star is expanded and then you put all the files in there, which is not a valid content expression. Actually, see, this is what the script gets as an argument internally. Yes, we passed eval. I think that should be fine. The next interesting one is the ST handler. So you can run that. That actually, I just figured out now, I did not update the comment. So what that thing does, it is the original thing where you make a file and then you load the file and we run it. So if I create a file 50 times 50 and put that in a file. So I have in there now a valid smalltalk expression. I can pass that to the image. Now, script actually ran and it exited successfully. So to show you again what I put in the script, I just put an expression on top to do something, which is impressive. You can show later, but if you want to print something on the output, the easiest way is this thing here. So file stream, standard out, next code all. That's really the basic, that's the lowest level.
I've seen the standard out in the image, so what happens when you print to standard out if you have a UI?
That actually still works. So standard out, if you launch it at least in OS 6, there's always a standard out open to somewhere. And on the Linux as well, that works even if you run in UI. On Windows, that is actually a bit problematic because by default Windows only opens a standard out if you run from shell. So we have to fake it that this forwards to the file. Yes. So to show you, I can run here the normal one. So I get hello with the missing new line. If I run it with Pharo UI, I get the UI popping up. It installs my default preferences. That is some things I cannot live with without a fixed font. So this is for my startup script. I'm sorry for this output, but you actually see that the hello here was pretty this one.
So is there a possibility to reroute it? Like if you open the image, say, okay, I want standard out to go to this file.
That is the standard. I mean, that's bash. If you do the
yeah, no, but if I don't launch it from the command line, by double clicking.
then I actually don't know. I think it's pipe to the OS 6 logging facility. I don't remember exactly. No, it's not that long. On OS 6, not. Maybe on the Linux. I don't know actually. So I've shown you a valid Smalltalk file. Important part, which for me was something. The first things I added is if you add an invalid expression, which is always very hard to do in Smalltalk, I never know, but I think that one here is invalid. Yes. No, it was valid. Dang it. I guess I just put two of those. That should do it, I think. Yes. So you get this warning and a thing that points you to the location where the error happened. That saves you hours of work usually, because before that meant that, as I told you, you didn't get proper warning. The VM exited successfully, and then that would mean you had to get the file and run it locally. And well, a mess. Anyway, this is the output you get. So everybody run a normal Smalltalk file. Who did not? Okay, good. The next part, which is very interesting, is that we can run the tests from the command line. So again, help is your friend. So you see there the description. I never care about this description, so I'm just going to show you the example. So it takes actually a regular expression to match the packages you want to test. I now run the tests in AST. So yes, my terminal was a bit not wide enough. That's why the output is a bit. Still not, I need to fit less. Here we go. There we go. So it actually lists the current executed test, and if everything is green, you have a nice output. To show you what happens if a test fails, I'm quickly going to add Jenkins, you don't care. It finished, and I get now here locally, I have these files, ASD something test XML. This is the files you can use for Jenkins. That is quite nice. I'm not gonna, well, I can show you how they look like. That is not very interesting. They basically list for each test case which test was run and how much time was spent. And I don't remember where one of them was failing, but another thing you will notice is that you get this strange view locally. And we had this issue that we had a couple of tests that were non-deterministic. That's a very nice property of a test. That means you run it on the server, it fails. You run it several times in the server, it might still fail. You run it locally, it never fails. So you're screwed. There is no way you can properly get to the cause of the bug without a lot of magic. What we added is, we simply, if the test fails, we simply serialize the stack and fill it up. Now, this is very nice because I show you that thing here. I open my image in UI mode because I want to debug. I find the fuel file here. I drag and drop it onto the image. And look at that. There's my stack trace. And, well, in this case it's not very interesting, but I see where the thing failed and where it came from. To limit a bit the size of the fuel file, because I don't want to store the whole image in there, I have some heuristics to crop the stack. So I think right now it just crops when you enter the test case and everything else is not shown. But that's essentially enough to give you decent information on how to debug it. So
Does this work only for tests or for any failure?
I can quickly show you that. So if I do this here, my favorite bug. If you open the debugger, you right click on the stack, there's this thing down there, fill out stack. And I guess I'm not going to do all the talk of Matt, but he will show you more of these fancy little details.
Actually, just that use case produces a fuel file which is 2.2 mega. So
Yes, I guess to show it.
if you have a lot of stuff in the image.
Oh, mine was pretty small right now. I was
I had
like,
a bit more stuff in the image. So depending on the context and everything, you can still get a lot of stuff. But then you have a lot of stuff to look at too. So
essentially, you don't care because you don't have failing tests, right? Okay. Well, I show you more or less the test thingy, how it worked. I mean, the failing tests you don't have to recreate. If we have one, it's agile correlations. The next thing we have is the save CommandLine handler. That allows you to save the image under a different name. It's a very difficult task because you have to rename two files, but it's very useful. I want to help again. Yes, there are a lot of examples. And, oh, this is still a 2.0 image. There is a typo in the comment that we fixed. Save as full image. I do that. And I get my full image here. There is an option, delete alt, which I sometimes use on Jenkins to clean up the thing because the zero-conf script in the beginning creates an image named Pharo image, this one here. And on Jenkins, I usually prefer to have really the image named after the project. I'm going to show that later. A lot coming later. We don't have enough time. Now, we start off on the way to build a complete command line interface so I can run everything on Jenkins from within Bash directly with Pharo. One thing that was missing for a long time is the installation of configurations. And how we did that was you instructions to load the configuration and install it. For me, that is quite annoying because if we had a mistake in there, you would have to change the file, push it with Git, make sure it was checked out on Jenkins, and then run the job again. I just want to edit in line. So if you do here the configuration, the command line handler, you will see that it has a lot of options and a lot of help text. Usually this here is the common use case. So you take an image, config, and then you give the URL of a Monticello repository. You say which configuration out of that thing you want, and you install the default version, in this case Stable. So I have an example prepared. This one here. If you want, you can try to run that on your image.
Does it save it?
Yes, of course. Otherwise, it would be fairly useless.
Yeah.
Something like that. So that's all in one line. I just made the text a bit bigger and it's readable. Yes, you should have a shorter URL for small token. It's an awful lot of typing. I know. Maybe we can buy FAT and raw.
No, it's all
Yes. Really?
yeah, it's just
Okay.
Yeah, connection closed.
Connection closed. Connection closed.
Waiting for data.
Yeah, there is an error. There is a problem with AutoCAD from the network of the university.
Ah, that's still the Zinc proxy. Okay. It works.
it does.
Yeah, so just to show you, I think there's also, that's not listed here, but if you type list afterwards, that's an undocumented feature. So if you have something like Pharo, Pharo.image, config, list, and then something like that, it lists you all the versions you can install. I don't remember exactly what I added, but I should add the documentation. But with that, it's very nice to explore Monticello configurations from the command line. Because I think it's even better than the UI in Pharo, because you cannot do that properly. Or at least I never know the command. Okay. I think my time is going to be over pretty soon. Yeah. So, just to show you what we work towards is a complete Jenkins setup. And currently on Pharo, the Jenkins setup looks like this. On top, I've used. Who uses matrix builds in Jenkins? Nobody. Good. So you don't care about the first line. Essentially, you can use in Jenkins. You can do multiple configurations. So if I want to test something under two different versions of the image and different versions of the VM, I can parameterize the build. But Jenkins is very stupid, so it puts slashes and things in it. Job description, so we need that first in there. Then I use the zeroconf script to download the VM, and then there's the parameter for the Pharo version. So I download the specific version of Pharo, usually 2.0. Next thing I do, I save the image with the name of my project. Usually that's the job of Pharo on Jenkins. I save the version to a file, which is important if you have issues, so you can just get that file and you see it in the history from Jenkins. And then comes the whole configuration part. So yes, this is what I described. I give the URL, I give the configuration, and which version, and then the last part is I run the tests, and again with the JUnit output. So that means we have actually the whole cycle, development cycle of Jenkins we can do now directly with Bash and with Pharo. I don't need Bash files to do fancy stuff. I just need Bash files to execute one command after each other, and that's what Bash is good for. I have a rule of thumb, and if I write a Bash script that uses an if statement, the first branch, I used to switch to Ruby, because I don't understand if statements in Bash, and it gets worse with other constructs. And that's why I think in Pharo we can write that very easily, but it was never done. I think now we're in a very good position that we can actually write all the scripts directly from within Pharo. Yes?
This is very cool. Can you implement your own comments? Is it expensive?
Yes, that was actually. It's always good if the people ask the question. Yes. Okay. We don't have too much time, but I think I will show that here. So here now I use the Pharo UI. You can also double click on the image, but we're not going to do that today. Yes. So then, is that more or less readable? It's a bit smaller. Okay, I go to the command line handler. Please use shortcuts to that pop up there. Command F, Command C. But yes, okay. So we have the command line handler. Let's make it a bit bigger. And let's go over this version. There's just a little command that prints the current Pharo version, the version number, so the update. And the thing goes like this: if you want to have a custom command line handler, you subclass command line handler. Then you write a class comment. This here is actually the documentation that is printed out when you do --help. So you solve two things with only one, and it's actually good motivation to write class comments. The name of the subcommand is given by command name. So print version you saw previously, there was the ST handler that was there. There's a small interface for the description. That is a one-line sentence that says what it does. This is what is printed when you do the -. And if you have something fancier, you can hook into this mob, which is responsible for. That is one, when you start up the image, it gets all the command line handler, gives him the arguments, and fetches the ones that actually can respond to this. So in this case, they don't ST handle. You don't have to specify ST. If you just give him the file name that ends with .st, it will take that one automatically. And if you create a custom one, in this case, save, that is maybe, yes, that is easier. The print version, the description, I have the command name. I don't need anything special. And then on the command, on the instance side, we have activate, which is the protocol that is run. If the command line handler has been chosen, it runs activate, and in there you can do whatever you want. So maybe I can quickly show an example. I create a cool command line handler. because by default that is not, you have to specify if you want to do that. But it printed through in yellow on the left. To show you quickly how to handle the error, the help. There's this little thing here, activate help, which does what you want. So I can quickly go there. Look. It just checks if the only argument is help. If so, run the default help method, which displays the command and the class command. So with that in there, help should work properly. There we go. Okay, I think that is more or less what you need to know. If you do any fancy output on the terminal, if you need callers, you can use the vterm output driver. It's a bit strange name maybe, but that encapsulates all the nifty little details for printing in caller onto the terminal. Just to show you an example, you can even do things like you can give a small talk caller. Yes, go there. Call. Yes. Okay. Caller 256. Now, with that, I set the terminal to whatever is output is going to be in that color. I think let's do the background as well to get a very nice combination. Let's put all.
You deleted the method name.
Huh?
You deleted the method name. Vterm output driver is not the method name.
First line method name? You shouldn't start the method with the command.
It's not a method.
No, it's a script. That's what's confusing, because he was writing a script inside the method.
Yes, because the workspace has the small font, because it's an update. That's why. So I run that. No, I did something wrong.
I think you don't have method caller to come and print this.
No, where are we? Debugger. Ah, no, is background. It's a boolean. I'm just stupid. True. That is a bit strange API actually. No, I forgot. True.
Change. Lulu, it could be.
That should work, I guess. Yes, because of brilliant eye cancer provoking color combination. So with that you can actually print nice rainbows and stuff. You need that very often. Exactly. But there's also more, there's also the whole part about how to move the cursor around. So I can move actually the cursor around the position in the terminal and print stuff there. I use that for the test runner. For the error message, yes. So because it prints the selector in the beginning and then it moves to a fixed position where you have the progress, the OK, or the message. Let me show you that again. So you see, I move always to the same position, no matter how wide the string is in the beginning. So I actually do that with the meter. Yes.
Can I concatenate multiple commands to the same image without respawning? Because right now I have given one command to one.
No, that I have not thought of. I guess one could write a little wrapper script that tags the input. But it's sort of also strange for Bash to do that. Usually you always launch one command, another one, but I guess it would be possible. But for instance, Damian Boyle, he presented Pharo and Esu, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's a good change.
Yes, and Coral is sort of orthogonal to that because Coral is more high level in the sense that it supports very fancy parsing of input arguments that actually gracefully handles all strange exceptions in the input. This version here is a very poor man's solution for the very same problem, but it's very simple and the basics I could implement in 1 afternoon. But you will see if you run I think the configuration handler, see if you run an argument it does not understand, it blows up in your face. And this is actually where we should use Pharo to do these things nicely and with proper abstractions and nice air messages. So yeah, I think that's it. Are there any questions? More questions?
Can we use the shell, just the framework, the shell framework for other projects? So suppose, for example, yeah, the bash scripts. Suppose now that I want to do the same for hooks and allow people to have a do the same for distribution tools.
I guess that would be possible. Right now, the script is in the scripts that we download, the server part is hard coded, but the generator that is written in Smalltalk has all parameterized. So you just barely change the server URL and you run the scripts again, and you will have a zeroconf script for downloading your Moose image with your Moose VM.
Yeah.